estate. Hope everyone is doing well. Renee, how are you?
Great, how are you?
Excellent.
Good.
We have a little guest with us today.
Today there'll be a lot of talking and there'll be motion, like Chad's now
Right. Already having to leave.
that has gone under the bistro in the office, so we need to make sure that the ball gets thrown in another direction.
Yeah.
So that we're not, because he actually won't stop barking until it's retrieved.
Right.
So, yeah, to give
It's
you
gonna be a whole thing. We've had one other episode where we had the little guy on.
We did, and I think it was also another travel episode.
Yeah.
So we're right after this, we're headed to the beach.
This is
so
a traveling
it's a travel
episode.
episode. So here he is. You heard noises. This is it.
Well, today, obviously we know, as we've talked previously, home inspections have become a thing again.
Yeah. We were just talking a second ago.
Right, we were just talking about it. So something that I saw that's been popping up a lot is pre-listing inspections, which we actually have a couple that have actually done this. So I didn't know that it was really a thing, but pre-listing inspection not only helps prepare the home for selling, but also gives the future owners confidence that the home is well kept.
Yeah, there's so many ways it could play out. Like I actually had an agent call because we do have one that did a pre-inspection, and it was, from the seller's perspective, the pre-inspection is advantageous because it gives them an opportunity to see what's wrong,
Right.
and fix it without greater expense. Because some of these fixes could be done, but this buyer says they want licensed so-and-so or contracted so-and-so. Those guys are top dollar.
Right.
Like the homeowner could actually do some of them themselves. Like GFCI stuff is not that difficult, but it would be a licensed electrician who's charging you, megabucks an hour to do GFCI work. So I've always recommended it because we're back into home inspections, so there's probably going to be one that comes.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, you're going to watch us dance with this dog.
Right.
It's going to be, it's going to be challenging in that regard, with them coming at them anyway. And I've just seen so many sellers where the home inspection shows up, and and I have to say, you can't touch your house. It's like, what? Like, and if we even go over that, I'm like, once you're under contract, the home has to freeze in the state that it's in.
Yeah, definitely.
And anything that's done to the home, it has to be agreed on by both buyer and seller. So, like you could go in and like turn your air up and down, but like anything like, repairs or any of that stuff truly shouldn't be, because the buyer's buying it based off what they saw the day they made that offer, not what you may or may not do to it post the offer.
So literally, once that contract is set, it's.
Well, it makes sense, right? Like I'm buying it the way I saw it. I don't want you to go in and install another toilet,
No, that's fair.
unless it's new and I like it.
Well, it's like how you can't really touch your bank account, like once everything, because you don't want anything
In the mortgage
shift
process.
in the mortgage process.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not the same to your house.
You better move all your money to the bank
Yeah.
before you go under offer. It's not,
Everything kinda
there's
has
just
to be
a
a freeze.
freezing situation. So,
Got it.
and we were just talking about it too, but the problem is like I had a agent contact me about that house we're talking about. He's like, well, why did they do? Like it turned into a negative, and I'm like, what? How is that negative? Like, because it was like, well, what was wrong with it? And I'm like, they didn't know.
Right.
That's why they it's just so there's just no, like, you cannot guess how someone, agent or client or otherwise, is going to respond to a situation, because you just can't. By the way, you're getting to experience my life on our life on a daily basis.
This is real life.
We actually now live in his world, not he and ours. So, and because he will actually get vocal if we don't participate. So enjoy the ball throwing as we continue this discussion about home inspection. So I recommend them.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, because we had not been in that market for so long,
I know.
I really had not even seen them, but the article that I was reading gave 6 key points about why this is advantageous for the
Chad
seller.
loves his points.
I love a good list. I
Points.
love a good list. So it was saying the reasons that it's advantageous for a seller is you're mitigating risk, so you're uncovering the issues. Client can disclose or fix the issues to mitigate the risk of not disclosing known defects.
That's the tricky thing. If something major shows up and you now know about it,
You have to disclose it,
or fix it.
Yeah.
That's
So,
that's
but again, that's going to protect the agent and the client. So mitigating
right,
the risk.
well, and
But
yeah,
at least the person buying is at least now it has to be disclosed that you have found these issues. But again, at the same time, if they want a home inspection when you go under contract, they're going to find it anyway.
that's what I keep
They're
telling
gonna
you.
find it
Like,
anyway.
it's their job to find this. If they
Yeah.
don't find
So
But would you rather just be upfront and find someone who's willing to deal with your problem
Right.
than like go through a contract after contract and broken? You know, look, I'm with you, but every person's different.
Yeah.
And everyone feels different.
Second one is you're able to price the home accurately. Using the report will help you get as close to that sweet spot as possible, determining the selling price.
I know, and the pricing accurately is such a challenge right now because sellers are still like, what's that idea? Like they see like the diamonds of Twitter. Like they're still just like, oh, I get so, and it's like, thankfully, thank you media for educating our sellers because I had a seller call today. He's like, I noticed rates have gone up. And then I'm like, so yeah, we're gonna have to price your house to sell. And that in his case, this client, like it also depends, this depends on the individual client because in his case, he's older. Like he just wants out, so we're gonna do as is, which means you can do a home inspection. He's done fixing stuff. Like the man is not like he's elderly. He's done. You know, I went through and said, hey, these are things that I happen to know enough about the loans. Like you need a railing. The loan is like these are things that won't pass a loan. But as far as like the home repairs, like he's so done. So like I have to price it according. Like I don't know what's wrong with the house. I mean that I can't physically see.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I know I have to price it in an as-is situation because he's not. I know he doesn't want to do anything.
Right.
So and so there's no sense in me offering to like suggesting the pre-sale inspection because he's not doing.
He's not gonna do it anyway.
Right.
But then would that not help in terms of being able to sell it though? Kind of determining that up front, so we're like, this is an as-is situation.
Here's what you're
dealing with. And selling it that way?
Yes and no, because that's, you remember it's an upfront cost for the seller.
Right.
Or myself. So, you know, when you weigh out cost effectiveness, you know, if you get a cash buyer who's handy, they may not, it's a waste. Does that make sense? Like, yeah. So in my mind, what this seller and I decided to do was mitigate the issues with a possible loan. You know, like, hey, let's and then he went off and started doing like he's wallpapering, and I could not convince him not to wallpaper. I'm like, please don't.
No.
Nobody likes wallpaper.
No.
Oh, it's a lovely one though. I got like he loves it. I'm like, you are not planning like.
They're trying to bring it back.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like even with the house that we're talking about with the inspection. She painted the walls like blue or some crazy, and she loves the colors, and I walked in like, oh, and that's the complaint.
Not everyone's gonna love it.
Most will not. Yeah, but she loves it, right? She loves color, and I'm like, I love that for you. It's like the whole meaning.
Right, exactly. Number 3 is attracting serious buyers, because obviously sharing the information with the buyer can help cast away doubts about the home and speed up the overall buying process. Which I mean, if it's a good report. So,
but it can too, right? Like the house itself could be challenging. So, for example, the one that's done the home inspection, we knew it was a challenge going in because they live on 4 acres, way out, you know, and it's going to take a very specific person to want that house. So, we wanted to what we chose to do was mitigate as many issues on the front end and not have her have to. Again, she doesn't want to deal with anything.
Yeah.
And she already had a guy working on, so here's how it happened. She already had a guy working on stuff, and I was like, if you've got a guy and he's capable, why don't you get a home inspection so you can get him to, you know, and the guy, like, it's a friend that had, you know, abilities, and he's like, I'm like, he could probably do it cheaper now.
Yeah, right.
Than having to hire somebody else later, you and the buyer agree on. And so, that's how that one happened. I think had she not had that, I might have, like, so everyone's so unique, but I do recommend it. Yes.
Right. Okay. Last negotiations. By having a pre-listing inspection performed, the client can avoid many common negotiations that may occur while fixing.
Yes. And look, as an agent, it makes our lives so much easier. Because if you're not fighting with the repairs, the process goes. I mean, that repair done, and you're seeing them now.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen them come
really
through.
Exhausting.
Yeah. And then having to cross out ones that they want to.
And everybody's idea of what's broken, damaged, or hazardous, like just the other day, it was a repair done for Savannah's house, and the listing agent said, well, the inspector only said that it's recommended that this be done, and I'm like, cause she's not an agent. Like I was like, well, she kept I didn't even get into it. She just kept saying, well, it's only recommended. I'm like, everything's recommended. She's not going to say it has to be done. She can't say that. Nothing has to be done.
No.
But is it broken, damaged, or like that's the part I was like, what are you picking out about? That thing is still an electrical. There is water in the electric panel.
Right. That's not.
Hazardous.
That's hazardous. Yeah.
Like, and that's where I had an agent one time because my sellers wanted cosmetic defects addressed, and I had a guy one time that said he was on the NAR or something, and he got upset at me. He's like, "It is illegal to put anything on the repair done that isn't broken, damaged, or hazardous." Like, I was super mad at me, and I'm like, hey. I was like, one, I'm still kind of new at this. Start there. I said, two, illegal seems strong. Will I be, like, am I going to court or jail? Like, what does that word is very aggressive.
Yeah, that is aggressive.
Three, I'm still having to represent my client. Like, we all the time have to do things that we would probably recommend our client not to do.
Right.
You know, like, or say, hey, I don't think this is going to fly. You know?
I mean, because couldn't technically anything be put on it? They just aren't.
Oh my gosh.
They can already agree to it. So.
According to this agent, no. And I'm like, I think you guys, and I was like, hey, listen, can you just tell us what, I said, it'd be easier if the seller says no than me go to my buyer and say, you can't do this. Because, like, you know, in his eyes, I'm there to represent him. He does what he wants.
Right.
And I still, like, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that at the end of the day, I mean, unless it is actually illegal.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to rob, like, so it's like, I feel like illegal is the wrong word here. So, yeah, he got really aggressive. So that's why I've stuck to the whole broken, damaged, or hazardous. And it's made my job easier, too, because if you do live in that space, most sellers will feel an obligatory. Like, I don't want to give somebody something that is a current problem, not a possible, like, the roof is old. Yeah, okay, that's why the price is the price. You can't get a credit for future roof, like, yeah.
Come on now. I mean, this one is similar, but understanding the condition of the home. Having all information about the home up front is key in preparing the home to sell to avoid surprises during the transaction process.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing, just again, having it up front, knowing what's there so you know how to negotiate, how to proceed.
The price situation is a little difficult because it's not like I can run comps and find out which other house had a leaky pipe.
Well, right. I mean,
Yeah,
there's other stuff
and
you
then
can
what's
really
the
do with
value
this.
of the leaky pipe? Like, so I think that there is like, I don't know how much that actually affects comps unless you get into a major foundation issues. You know,
Right.
if a major shows up.
That's fair.
But broken, damage, and hazardous is not always major. Like a leaky pipe is a leaky pipe, and I can usually get them to fix it.
Right.
You know, because it's usually not a difficult fix.
Right.
You know, you don't
Oh, yeah.
contractual.
Oh, exactly.
So, yeah.
The last one is better marketing. A pre-listing report is great to draw attention to the positive features uncovered during the inspection. Sharing these findings is a great way to build trust with prospective buyers.
I think so. I think it also deters the lowballers.
Right. Oh, exactly.
Because they're like, oh, stink. Like the house is fully prepared to sell. Oh, I'm not gonna get anything off of it. You know, like I think a lowballer's gonna like if you're a deal hunter, you're a deal hunter. There's no change.
Right. Oh, yeah.
You'll find your deal eventually.
Yeah,
but a lot of sellers, we're not in the market where a seller feels like they've got to dump a house.
Right.
We're not there yet. So you know the comps, and we are in a market where I feel like realtors are running fair comps. Like we're not just most of us are not just slapping the price of the house
Right.
and letting it sell. And honestly, like unless it's not like I have some sellers who want primo price, and I'm like, let's go for it. You never know. This magic can happen, but that's not without a really heart to heart about the current situation.
Well, yeah.
Hey, we might be shooting too high.
Right.
The market will tell us.
Well, exactly. Well,
So-
I mean, in a different world, obviously I was recently selling and buying a car.
Oh yeah,
And
that's right.
what was funny about that is,
The used car market was like a year ago.
well, I know, but I mean, speaking to inspections, when I was hunting, if the inspection had not been done, I just went right to cast it. I didn't even
See?
bother. So, and when I saw one that was inspected, I was like, okay, well, that would be one that I want to look at because I know they're taking care of their car.
Yes.
Kind of the same thing with a home. That pre-inspection kind of shows, yes, we have taken care of our home.
Well, and I actually had
And
another
we're really
seller.
fixing what's wrong.
Yeah, and another seller said, would they be open to another home inspection, a different opinion? And I'm like, I mean, yeah, but I don't think they're gonna, like, I don't know what you're gonna find.
Right.
That they're gonna wanna, like, I said, to me, that seems like a waste of money.
It doesn't like waste.
I was like, we've had, the home inspector's job is to find all the problems, so you have a copy of all the problems and receipts for all the fixes. You know, if you wanted to have someone come and confirm the fixes were done correctly, that seems like a better use of your money than to have a secondary home inspection. So, when it comes down to broken, damaged, and hazardous, every home inspector will find it.
Yeah.
They'll find it. Like the little nitpicky things they might see different, like crack in the sidewalk, one may talk about it, one may not.
Yeah.
No one's gonna do anything about it. Like, doesn't matter if they say or don't say, no one's fixing the crack in the sidewalk. Like, nobody.
No, they're not.
It's called wear and tear.
Yeah, it's not something that's going to,
cosmetic. Yeah.
And so the other part of pre-inspection, which is what I had thought first, but now that I'm actually seeing, now that I saw this list, I was like, okay, well actually that makes a lot more sense, is that if you do the pre-inspection, you don't have to have a third party necessarily doing the repairs. This gives you a chance to have that done with someone else.
Well, it gives you a chance to choose who fixes it and at what price versus, having to negotiate with a buyer.
Got it.
It's very advantageous to contractors, like guys who flip and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Because sellers don't want, or buyers don't want the guy that flipped the house who left the problems to be the one to fix the problems.
Right.
Like it's like when you miss that to begin with, and it's not even necessarily negligence. It's just everybody sees it different. So that's why I say, hey, if you've got skills, it might be beneficial for you to look into that because you could fix it yourself.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Luckily Brian was able to negotiate him to fix.
Right.
But now she wants to come back and have it inspected. But I get that because Gina on the other house where they had their friends who were contractors left contracting licenses, but it wasn't paid. She wasn't happy. So the fix was have that same guy or girl that told you who the problems were come out and review the problems.
Right.
Because that's all you're working with anyway.
Oh, exactly. Which makes total sense.
Yeah. It's like $75 to go back.
Right. So another article that I had read, which was really funny, because if you don't have these skills, please do not do this. But it was saying 4 DIY, projects that you should not be doing as a seller for. Electrical work, plumbing, roofing and ducting, and landscape grading.
Interesting on the landscape and grading.
Yeah, I think landscaping would be fine, but grading was referring to the fact that it could create a flooding situation if you don't know what you're doing.
Oh.
So, and we've seen where that's, if you end up in a flood zone and you grade incorrectly, then it can cause flooding, and that could cause structural issues.
If you don't know what you're doing, because the grading has to go 18 inches from flat plateau to house.
Right.
Ski slope floor, and it should do that around the entire home.
Right.
But if you don't know that, you will create more problems.
So it's like if you don't have these skills,
don't use the correct materials.
It could end up your pre-inspection.
Electric, you could set your house on fire. Don't know why. I know electricians who use this. Like plumbing is interesting. I feel like depending on what the job is.
Yeah, again, it depends on how in-depth the plumbing issues are.
And roofing depends as well too.
Yeah.
Like if it's shingle repair, you'd want maybe a roofer, but I know putting rain caps on the chimneys, those things are.
Those things are fine. I think it was more like referring
the roof
to
itself.
Like the roof itself.
Don't re-shingle your home.
Yeah, and not hurting yourself in the process.
Well, and
falling off your roof, and then all of a sudden you've got medical bills. So it's obviously don't just do these pre-inspection repairs because you're trying to save a buck.
No.
Because if they did ask for another inspection, then you just created a
whole if you don't do it right, you will get
So it's just gonna be a big mess. So so that's what we have for today.
Sweet.
So of course we have the end on Fun Fact Friday. So this I found really curious. Monopoly was originally designed to show the dangers and pitfalls of concentrating land in private monopolies and to demonstrate that the economic value of land should belong to all members of society. We turned it into a game.
Okay, but how were they playing it before?
Yeah, it was designed to be a learning
Like, hey, we're putting a board with all these different things.
Yeah,
so
so
you
it
can
was
see
it
how.
was more like an educational tool, not fun. Like let's collect all the hotels and ruin everyone else's game.
But that's what happens.
That's what happens. So, but it was actually
Still could be educational.
yeah. So it was intended to be an educational game.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I
That's
was
so
very
cool.
curious. So.
I love chat finding
Oh,
fun things.
they're so
I love
fun.
it.
All right, well that's it
All right.
for today. Thanks guys. See you
Thanks
next
for
week.
joining.